Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Marcus White.
And my name is Fight Mode Nick Cavalli.
And we welcome you to the Wrevolution.
So today is week 2, well, week 1, episode 2, if you will, of the World Wrestling Classic. And we are coming to you live on a day that is rather sorrowful in professional wrestling. So today, the quote-unquote After Mania WWE release dump happened, and it was huge.
Quite substantial. Definitely different. This, as we all anticipated, as we alluded to in our last video, definitely due to the fact that it came out that WWE was part of ownership of the XFL, and with that now going bankrupt, that just has everything to do with this. It's the writing on the wall there.
Yep. Additionally, with lost revenue from house shows and stuff like that, over 30 people were released from the company today. A quick list: Drake Maverick, Kurt Hawkins, Carl Anderson, Luke Gallows, Heath Slater, Aiden English, Eric Young, EC3, Leo Rush, Kurt Angle, Sarah Logan, Mike Chioda, Primo, Epico, Rowan, Mike Kanellis, Maria Kanellis, Zack Ryder, No Way Jose, Rusev, Gianna Perazzo, excuse me, I'm going to get your name wrong, Alexander Yaskic, and then on the back end of things, Finley, Lance Storm, Mike Rotunda, the Hurricane, Shane Helms, Scott Armstrong, Pat Buck, Sarah Stock, Sean Daivari, Billy Kidman, and Andrea Lissenberger. In addition, there is some announcing talent and some Performance Center NXT talent that are going to be given a 30-day span of pay, and then will be released from the company as well. So right now, we're still tracking possible new releases. It looks like maybe we're done for the day, but over 30 talent and producers and writers have been released today from the company. And of course, we wish them the best as they go forward with their future endeavors. Personally, I hope to see a lot of these guys land on their feet very, very quickly in one of WWE's competitors, not even necessarily AEW, anywhere, New Japan, Impact, ROH, somewhere. Get back on your feet. A lot of you guys were misused in WWE as it was, so I'm excited for your guys' new opportunity despite it coming at such a horrible time. In addition, I would just like to say this is just disgusting. I know time to time that this happens in WWE where we get a big load of talent that gets lost, but there was an article published where WWE a month ago talked about how they have $500 million in emergency reserves and they have all kinds of money saved up to take care of their talent in the case that something like this happens. And now you cut 30 people because it makes your revenue stream look better. It's even been borderline admitted that the reason for these cuts was not because the company was going to suffer, but because the stock trade value is going to suffer. So again, putting dollar signs over people's lives, over their careers, over their livelihoods, that is wrong. Vince McMahon, you are a scumbag. You are a horrible human being. You just bribed your way into your company becoming essential, spent $18.5 million on that, but can't afford to pay these people whose total salaries added up to around $3 to $4 million. Garbage. Absolute garbage.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and jump into the World Wrestling Classic, Week 1. So we got your guys' results, everyone that voted in the polls, and me and Nick, we sat down, and after much deliberation and taking your guys' input into consideration, we have the results of all first-round matchups and who will be advancing into round 2.
All at one time. We're going to go ahead and we're going to break it down match by match, talk about what's going to happen, talk about how the matches are going to happen, and then we will give to you your round 2 matchups for you to mull over and work on in the upcoming week. Sorry if I cut you off again. I don't know if my connection's a little bit slower than usual because it seems like I've talked over the top of you about 3 or 4 times already today.
Uh-huh.
So our first round matchup was Kenny Omega and Hiromu Takahashi. This is going to be a hard-hitting, strong-style matchup. Um, Takahashi is one of the best of the Super Juniors right now. He was IWGP Junior Heavyweight Champion when we started this. I'm not entirely certain if he currently is. I haven't been keeping up to date on my New Japan. I know. Slay me as I stand. So what did you think about when reviewing that matchup?
Oh, Kenny Omega was going to destroy Takahashi. I had zero faith in Takahashi doing anything in this match, and apparently neither did anyone on the Twitter machine, because Poe stated that Kenny Omega got 100% of the vote. So poor Takahashi, no confidence from the fans. But no, Kenny's just, I look at this and I go, Kenny's going to outclass him. He's going to school him from bell to bell. It's going to be a slaughter.
So this matchup is going to be a very quick-paced matchup, hard-hitting, strong style. Both of us discussed it, and of course, with the one-winged angel, there's no way to go wrong. Kenny Omega takes home the victory over Hiromu Takahashi, and he will advance to the second round of the 2020 World Wrestling Classic.
Real quick, let's go ahead and move on to match number 2. So it's Will Ospreay versus TJP. Again, looking at the polls, this was pretty close. In fact, it was evenly split, 50-50.
Yeah, this was an absolute dead heat down to the end. Will Ospreay, TJP, both high-flying masters. Ospreay and TJP also have great technical ability, so this is going to be one of, if not the best first-round matchup you are going to get. And, of course, out of that 4 versus 5 slot, you're going to get a lot of fantastic matchups. Both of these guys hit hard. Both of these guys are fast, go as hard as they possibly can. And when it comes down to it, both of these men can work the mat.
Yeah, I think you talk about people in the business who are just known for their athleticism. Obviously, the first guy that comes to mind is Will Ospreay. But people often forget TJP's been in this game for a long time. He's been wrestling since he was like 13 years old. A lot of guys that came into the industry have admitted they've modeled their style of wrestling after TJ Perkins. So I feel like he was kind of the forgotten guy going into this tournament. And it was nice to see that there were people out there that, recognized the astounding talent this man possesses. So it didn't surprise me personally that this ended up being so equal in the votes. Mm-hmm. But if for my money, of course, I was leaning to TJP going into this.
Right. So go ahead and break down the finish of this matchup for us.
Yes, so picking up the victory was TJ Perkins. He is going to be advancing to round 2.
Okay, so in round 2, it will be Kenny Omega versus TJP. That ought to be another good matchup, another one in which Kenny Omega has a slight edge over the more agile opponent, as he is a much more experienced ring technician. But again, watch out for the light-footed and absolutely insane high-flying style of TJP to counteract Kenny Omega.
I would say in that next match, do not sleep on TJP. As I mentioned before, guy's a vet. He's been doing this a long time. He's got some tricks up his sleeve.
So we move on now to the rematch of the Y2AJ WrestleMania matchup. AJ Styles is the number 3, Chris Jericho the number 6, and this poll started out skewed very quickly to Chris Jericho, and at the end we saw a late push from AJ Styles. So you guys all the way across the board, and it still finished rather close in a 60-40 finish. AJ Styles did win our fan polling. This is another fantastic matchup. I mean, these guys probably put on a better show the first time at WrestleMania than at the World Wrestling Classic. But it's not that Jericho can't go. It's that he puts on an entirely different style of match now than he did when he first went with AJ Styles. These guys are both in-ring technicians. Both of these guys can do high-flying stuff. Both of these guys can work the power game. They're some of the best all-around wrestlers in the world between the two of them. So I think this was an evenly matched matchup. I think this would be a fun one to watch back.
Yeah, all I gotta say is he's simply phenomenal, though, right? I mean, you knew AJ. At least I knew AJ had this one unlocked. Looking at the pose, there wasn't a single moment when this first started where I was like, "Oh no, man, Jericho's winning." Nah, I knew AJ would pull it out, and full confidence in my guy. Although that's no disrespect to Jericho. He's, as you put it, he's amazing at what he does. One of the best in the world. He's a legend in this business. But he's got the youth advantage. I'd say he's got the speed, and even a little bit more now. I'd say the strength advantage too. So it didn't surprise me with our result, which is that AJ Styles did, in fact, pick up the win here. He is advancing to round 2. He nailed Jericho with a phenomenal forearm for the 1, 2, 3. So
yes, and what a fantastic finishing sequence. Jericho goes for the Judas effect. Styles ducks underneath of it, hits the Pele kick, and then out to the apron for the phenomenal forearm. What a finishing what a finishing sequence from these guys. AJ Styles on to round number 2.
So our next matchup is Kazuchika Okada versus the American Dragon, Daniel Bryan.
Well, this one was rather outspoken in the polls. Kazuchika Okada picks up 71% of the vote. And, I mean, look, I know you're a big D-Bry guy, and I respect his body of work, but Kazuchika Okada, the Rainmaker, one of the best wrestlers in the world, it's great to see him in this matchup, and I definitely, there's no way that Okada doesn't pick up this win, right?
Yeah, no, this was coming into this matchup again. I felt that, honestly, I felt you had been very disrespectful to Daniel Bryan. Again, he is a legend in this business, one of the best in the world. I've seen no drop-off in his in-ring ability despite the, how many year layoff he was gone due to his injury. So even looking at the poll, the fact that he did get beat so badly, I guess isn't necessarily surprising because you have a lot of people who are riding the wave of Okada right now. He's one of the hottest things in the world, and Daniel Bryan, within the past year, is kind of falling a little bit more into that mid-card spot. So it doesn't surprise me that people would vote Okada over Daniel Bryan, but I still gotta say, you gotta put some respect on my man D-Bry. That being said, respect wasn't enough to pick up the win here.
But the Rainmaker was, everybody, the Rainmaker. Kazuchika Okada is going on to round 2. So that side of the bracket is set. And look at those 2 matchups we have set. Kenny Omega and TJP is going to be interesting. But AJ Styles versus Kazuchika Okada, an absolute dream match.
Yes. So, let's go ahead and transition to the other side. Match number 5.
Number 5 is just below it. Drew McIntyre versus Moose. And this one surprised me in the polling. A lot of you guys apparently watch Impact Wrestling, or at least pay attention to Impact Wrestling, as Moose received 50% of the vote.
Yes, that was a little bit more surprising to me, although I do understand that Moose has got a little bit of a cult following there. I mean, everywhere he goes, people are always chanting his name, even in matches that don't even involve the guy. So that one was, I guess, to be expected. But for my money, it's the new WWE World Champion. It's Drew McIntyre. That's why I thought this was going.
I can't bet against McIntyre on this one. And, of course, the result of the matchup is a Claymore. Moose not able to kick out after the second Claymore. McIntyre goes on for the win. But this is a brutal matchup of 2 big men. Another great thing that you just would love to see happen.
Absolutely. Next, we have Jay Lethal versus Pac. And this was a little bit closer than some of our other matchups. It wasn't quite 50-50, but 60% in favor of Jay Lethal. Of course, 40% going for Pac. So I was kind of surprised, honestly, that Jay Lethal was so heavily pushed in this poll. I did lean towards Jay Lethal. Of course, I recognize his work in Ring of Honor and from his days in TNA. But I would thought with what Pac's been doing over this last couple years, I would think it would have been Pac all day. But no, you guys surprised me with that vote.
Yeah, so Jay Lethal and Pac put on a fantastic matchup. Both of these guys are absolutely great in the ring. Lethal a little bit more of a flashy style, whereas Pac the ground and pound until he can hit you with that black arrow. Unfortunately, he was never able to hit the black arrow. Jay Lethal will come away with the victory.
So our next match, the American Nightmare, Cody versus Tommaso Ciampa. And what a match this was. Not just in the ring, but on the polls, because 50-50 split.
Well, here's a big thing for you guys. Cody and Ciampa both came up through the same system. A little bit apart, but through the same system. Ciampa's mentor at the Performance Center and when he was working on training was the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes. So, interesting matchup here. Of course, Cody, the son of a plumber. These two have a little bit of a history, but not a lengthy one. Matchup that I would be dying to see. But these guys, again, their styles are fantastic. Both of them come from an indie background style. And I would love to be there to see a matchup between these two.
So, obviously, going into this, I wanted Ciampa to be in the bracket because I wanted what we all want, and that's it's the fight forever scenario, right? The dream match, Johnny Gargano versus Tommaso Ciampa. But the dream dies here, guys, as the American Nightmare picks up the victory.
And you get hit with two crossroads, you don't usually get back up from that. Unless you're apparently Sean Spears. The last matchup in that end is Johnny Gargano from NXT and Sami Callihan from Impact Wrestling.
So, I could tell a lot of you guys didn't know a whole lot about Sami Callihan looking at this vote. 67% of the vote went to Johnny Gargano, 33% to Sami Callihan. So, definitely the vote was extremely in favor of one Johnny wrestling. And I did lean towards Johnny going into this. Again, he's one of the best in the world. I want to see the fight forever scenario. But I still have mad respect for Sami Callihan and what he brings to the ring. But he's just not in the same level of Johnny wrestling, let's be honest.
I'd agree with you on that. It kind of feels like the guys from Impact and from Ring of Honor, for the most part, got the short end of the stick when it came to their matchups. I mean, Sami Callihan drew Johnny Gargano, Lethal drew Pac, and Blanchard drew Allen, and Rush drew Penta. So, not a lot of favorable matchups for guys from Ring of Honor and Impact.
Hell, Moose drew Drew McIntyre.
Right. And even New Japan at times. I mean, you look at a guy like Hiromu Takahashi drew Kenny Omega, but this matchup would be fantastic to watch. It would be really awesome to watch Sami Callihan go at it with Johnny Gargano. But Johnny wrestling is going to pick up the win here. One of the most fantastic wrestlers in the world, and that's not to take anything away from Sami Callihan. Sami Callihan is a very good wrestler, and again, I would love to see this matchup. Literally, that's the entire point of this. The World Wrestling Classic is talking about matchups we would never get to see.
Exactly.
And figuring out who the best wrestler in the world is. But today, the Menor Man is Johnny Gargano, the Gargano escape, and a pass out from Sami Callihan.
So moving on, we have Tetsuya Naito versus Flip Gordon. Similar result here. 67% of the vote going to Naito, 33% to Flip Gordon. kind of expected. Personally, for me, I saw Naito picking up the win here. Seemed like most of you guys agreed with me.
This one, I don't want to say it seemed easy to pick because I love Flip Gordon. I think Flip Gordon's a fantastic talent. Guy is just out of his mind, insane. And in a matchup with somebody a little bit closer to his style, maybe the outcome's a little closer. Somebody who is a little bit more towards his experience level, because Flip Gordon is relatively new in comparison to someone like Tetsuya Naito, who's been around the sun many, many times, is the IWGP World Heavyweight Champion and the IWGP Intercontinental Champion, one of the most accomplished Japanese wrestlers of all time. It's very, very difficult to see Flip Gordon winning this. Again, Flip's a fantastic wrestler. If you've not seen any of his matches, go find one because he will definitely astonish you. But I couldn't see this going any other way.
Absolutely. So, next, Hangman Adam Page versus Finn Balor. And
this provides us one of our most interesting matchups in the entire bracket.
Yeah, I knew this was going to be close online. I knew this would be close in the ring. Talk about someone like Finn Balor, who's just universally known as one of the best wrestlers in the world. Guy just puts on classic matches. Like you can't have a bad match with Finn Balor. And then you look at someone like Hangman, who's a rising star in this industry, was anointed, I guess, if that's the way you want to put it, by Cody and the Elite, chosen to kind of be the future of the industry in AEW. The man's won a tag team championship with Kenny. He's challenged for he was the first challenger for the AEW World Heavyweight Championship in an amazing match with Chris Jericho. The guy just puts on fantastic matches. He moves like a cruiserweight, and he's a borderline big man. He's a light heavyweight. He's strong as hell.
Strikes like a heavyweight.
Yeah, he's strong as hell, fast. Like, he's the total package. He's everything you want in a wrestler.
Yeah, and this is almost a passing of the torch, if you will. Finn Balor, his entire career, has wrestled above his weight class. He's hit harder than guys his size, and while he is still more athletic than most guys his size as well, he continues to hit hard. Finn Balor, of course, formerly known as Prince Devitt, the founder of the Bullet Club, if you will, Hangman Page, one of the members of the Bullet Club when he was in Ring of Honor. So this is almost the passing of the torch kind of match, and the torch is passed, if you will, with the buckshot lariat into a Deadeye after Balor kicked out of the lariat.
So, we move on to a match where you guys on Twitter, you guys don't like Rush, do you? Because Pentagon Jr. with 100% of the vote going into this one.
Well, I mean, to be fair, Rush is a relatively new Ring of Honor World Champion. When we first had discussed this idea, it was PCO, and PCO at least had a pretty decent backing in the internet wrestling community, the IWC. But Rush just doesn't have the backing right now that PCO had at the time. There was never a chance. I mean, Rush is a good wrestler, but Pentagon Jr., former AAA world champion, former Lucha Underground world champion, former Impact tag team, and I believe world champion. I could be wrong.
Former AAA tag team champion.
Yeah, this guy's done everything.
And it's like you said, he didn't stand a chance in the polls, and to be honest, he didn't stand a chance in the match. Dude just kind of got outclassed. Just doesn't have the in-wing prowess to match someone with the likes of Pentagon Jr. So he picks up the victory with a package Penta driver for the win.
So we move on to what might be our most interesting and intriguing matchup of the bunch so far. And, even some members of the non-wrestling community who watch our podcast based on just, being friends, family, enjoying the comedy went, Tessa, that's a girl? So Tessa Blanchard, the only female in the 2020 World Wrestling Classic, the Impact World Champion, by God, one of the most incredible athletes in this world takes on Darby Allin.
So I was a little disappointed in the results for the Twitter poll there. I'd have thought there'd have been more support for Darby Allin, but I guess he is still relatively new, but he's an amazing talent. I feel like the following is there from the AEW crowd, but yeah, Tessa Blanchard, the Impact World Champion, she just had all the support. And I told you guys going into this though, like for the match, do not sleep on Tessa Blanchard. I told you everyone's going to bypass and say, well, you know, she's a girl, whatever. She's a world champion for a reason. And I think she proved that in her match against Darby Allin. It was absolutely brutal, by the way.
Tessa Blanchard comes from a long line of wrestling royalty, as you know. Her father, Tully Blanchard, of course, over in AEW right now, working with Shawn Spears. But Tessa she's hard-hitting. She is very, very in your face. And she can be one of the most brutal opponents you will ever face in your life. She's stronger than most guys you'll ever get in the ring with. And she is just one of the most durable athletes I've ever witnessed in my life. No offense to WWE, but you guys really swung and missed when you let her go. Congratulations, I suppose, to Tessa Blanchard, who picks up the win over Darby Allin. Not only is she the first woman to compete in the World Wrestling Classic, she's the first woman to win in a World Wrestling Classic match.
So this next match, this honestly doesn't surprise me. The results on Twitter doesn't surprise me. The results of the match. I mean, spoiler alert, but Scorpio Sky, the guy I told you guys is my sleeper pick to win the whole damn thing. I mean, he's amazing. He proves it every time you see him. He's the best wrestler, I think, in SCU. He's one of the best wrestlers in AEW, if not in the world. Dude's charismatic. He's extremely talented, athletic. Dude's got it all. And he has an Obama impression that's just out of this world. So, what more do you want from the guy? And I love Adam Cole, baby. I love the guy. I love the NXT World Champion. But I feel like all that success that he's had this past year is kind of gone to his head. You could tell in this match he didn't exactly look like he had prepared, like he was maybe taking Scorpio Sky seriously, and that cost him in this matchup.
And we do get Scorpio Sky advancing, the first number 8 seed to advance in the tournament as well. An upset, yes, but I mean, Adam Cole's been acting a little nonchalant lately as it is, so doesn't really shock me.
So, another dead heat 50-50 tie on Twitter. Keith Lee versus Seth Rollins. This was surprising to me because I felt like the IWC had all but like cast out Seth Rollins. So I was surprised to see the support there.
Yep. For those of you who did not catch the first video but may have voted or may be watching now, you got to remember, Keith Lee beat Brock Lesnar just to get into this thing. So, beating Brock Lesnar, he came into this matchup brutalized going up against Seth Rollins. And it was a hell of a match, a bona fide slobber knocker, if you will. Keith Lee, of course, a fantastic talent. He definitely plays down his weight class here, is a little bit more athletic going against the athletic Rollins. Rollins, of course, has a little bit of an advantage when it comes to the technical style.
And I would say also, I mean, he's a mastermind, like, at what he does. So coming into this match, you could tell Rollins had a game plan. Keith Lee being weakened from his Brock Lesnar match, you could tell he had potentially either injured ribs or back. We're not quite sure which part, but you could see the tape around the waist. So Rollins made a point to attack the midsection of Keith Lee throughout the entire match, really focus in on the injury, and you could tell Seth Rollins did his homework. And it honestly looked like for a minute that Seth Rollins had the match locked up, like he was going to advance to the next round. It was almost, to me, it was like almost but certain at a certain point in this match. I was like, it's Rollins, like he's winning.
Yeah, I mean, Rollins hits the stomp. Keith Lee is all but down and out, and at 2 9/10 kicks out. The fight goes on for a little while longer before finally Keith Lee catches Seth Rollins with a big bang catastrophe.
And what a way, too, by the way. Rollins goes for another stomp, and then in midair gets caught for the big bang catastrophe. That's insane.
Reminiscent of the WrestleMania match with Randy Orton. Fantastic catch on the curb stomp attempt into the big bang catastrophe for the 1, 2, 3. The Limitless One advances to round 2 of the World Wrestling Classic. So one former member of the Shield is eliminated. 2 more have to compete, and they're in the next 2 matches.
So let's talk about one former Shield bro, and that's the AEW World Champion Jon Moxley versus Marty Scurll. This was a landslide. Moxley won this hands down in the poll voting, 88% to 12%. Not much confidence there for Mr. Marty Scurll. I picked Moxley going into this. No offense to Marty Scurll, but Moxley, he's got all the momentum in the world. He's coming to this off a championship win. He's hot right now in the industry. He's hot in the ring. Dude just does it all. He's charismatic. Who else would you want to be the face of your company than Jon Moxley? Dude's great at what he does. And this and by the way, this wasn't a match. This was like a fight. Like, Moxley didn't want to wrestle Marty Scurll. He wanted to beat the hell out the guy.
Well, and understandably so. I'm not going to say Marty Scurll's a better wrestler because Moxley has his wrestling talents, but Marty Scurll is fantastic in the ring. And this is the thing. If this match would have happened 2 or 3 years ago and it would have been Dean Ambrose versus Marty Scurll when he's in, he's the vigilante of the Bullet Club, it might have gone the other way. Those 2 persona changes, if you will, really have changed their abilities in the ring. And Scurll's 3 years older now.
Yes, so Jon Moxley picks up the win here, of course, with the paradigm shift. So he will advance. And we round out the first round with the last member of the Shield, the big dog, Roman Reigns versus...
With Vince McMahon's wet dream match?
Yeah, Roman Reigns versus Walter. And you guys really surprised me with the voting here. I'd have thought there'd have been way more support for Walter. I don't know if it's just a lack of UK crowd and our fans, or if you guys don't pay as much attention to NXT UK or what Walter's been doing over there, even on the regular NXT shows, but... yeah, no, the support was not there. The big dog, Roman Reigns. And I feel like it's the John Cena effect, honestly, with Roman. Like, he is the guy of the company. It's hard to pick against him. Even I succumbed to that. I was picking Roman going into this. So I think it was Roman all the way.
It hurts. It really does, because I love Walter. Walter is one of my favorite wrestlers right now, and he just seems absolutely unstoppable. But he does have one thing that works against him. He is so enormously large that his athleticism lacks a little bit sometimes, and not in the way that he can't perform moves, but in the way that once he gets moving, hard to get stopped, and that kind of went against him. He got his momentum going forward. Roman Reigns hits him with a spear, and it just came out of what felt like nowhere. I mean, and that's what happens when you're a big guy like Walter. Like, you've seen Roman against Brock. Walter's bigger than Brock. And Walter had all that momentum going forward, and it just came crashing back down to the earth on his back for the 1, 2, 3. The big dog beats the ring general.
Yes. All right, so now that we've told you guys the results of the first round, told you all the winners and who's going to be advancing to the next round, let's go ahead and show off the bracket. So, as you can see, the bracket is completely full. We've got everyone that's going to be competing in the second round, and we've got the matchups. So, if you look at the top of the left side of the bracket, in the next round, it's going to be Kenny Omega versus TJP. Let's talk about that match.
That matchup's going to be an interesting one. Of course, TJP, a little bit more of a high-flying style, but of course, we talked about it with Ospreay. He does have that technical mat wrestling ability. That should go very well against one of the best ring generals in the business, Kenny Omega, who can do just about anything.
Yeah, unlike the first matchup for Kenny, I definitely think this one's going to be a lot tougher. I still lean towards Omega, but it would not shock me at all if TJP pulls up the upset here and ends up somehow winning this matchup. So I definitely say...
And you have to think, while it would be great to see TJP go and advance one round, Omega wins, you are either guaranteed the Omega Styles Dream match we never got, or Omega Okada again.
Exactly. So it's a coin flip. It really is in terms of who I would support, but I am looking more favored, more forward towards Kenny Omega winning this matchup. Next we have AJ Styles versus Okada, and my goodness, what a match!
Bonafide dream match. AJ Styles versus Kazuchika Okada is something that we talk about in 2K, we talk about in fantasy booking situations, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. So this is just one of the all-time greatest performers in the world, taking on somebody who really in Okada has been underrated on the state side because he's never performed here. He's performed in New Japan Pro Wrestling. The closest he's ever gotten is some of the smaller shows that they do in the States with the Ring of Honor. So this is a matchup that maybe some people here in the States won't think is a huge matchup, but Okada versus AJ Styles is possibly one of the best matches we will see in this tournament.
Oh yeah, you're watching without a doubt two of the best in the world go at it, and it's not just like when I say best, like of the best of the world, like you can maybe go 1 to 10. I'm talking about two of the top 3 wrestlers in the world right now.
Yes.
The undisputed list. I don't care how you number it, whoever you want to say is 1, 2, or 3. You got Kenny Omega, AJ Styles, and Kazuchika Okada. That's your top 3. Again, put 1 through 3. You can mix and match however you want to do it, but that should be your top 3. That should be every wrestling fan's top 3 best in the world right now. So this is a dream match. This is amazing. I don't believe these two have ever fought before, if I may be corrected
not that
there.
I'm aware of.
Yeah.
I mean, Okada was certainly not in his prime if they did.
No, but something that I do look forward to, and this is the matchup I think people may miss, because obviously people are, if they're looking forward, they're thinking Okada versus Kenny again, right? You're thinking, oh my God, we may get to see the match of all matches happen again. But me personally, I'm looking for another match that we've never seen before, and that's AJ Styles versus Kenny Omega. The unresolved feud. We all forget AJ was sent back into WWE via an attack from Kenny Omega and the rest of his Bullet Club brothers. So this is something that he's just kind of had to stew on and just kind of tolerate ever since leaving New Japan, because there's nothing he can do about it. So
just that they talked about it in the past. Kenny Omega has, when AJ Styles had mentioned that he'd be leaving, that's when they decided to strap the jetpack on the back of Kenny Omega. So this is both a personal rivalry and a professional rivalry. This should be a fantastic matchup if we do get lucky enough to see it.
Well, you've got to think also, coming from Kenny's side too, is that if you're from Kenny's perspective, you're probably thinking it shouldn't have took you leaving New Japan for me to be the guy. If I'm assuming, coming from his perspective, I'm the best wrestler in the world. Like, I'm not one of, like, it's not a shared thing. I am the best wrestler in the world. I'm the best bout machine. I'm the Terminator, whatever you want to call him. So that's me, Kenny freaking Omega. So he's got to be coming into this saying, this is where we put an end. Like, if somehow they both advance to the next round, he's probably got to be thinking, I put an end to all this conversation, all this talk now. Whoever walks out of this match, that is the undisputed best in the world, especially if you're AJ and you beat Okada and then you beat Kenny Omega. That's it, right? Like, best in the world right there. GOAT. Like, you can't, there's no debate.
I think you could argue that whoever comes out of the top left bracket is the best wrestler in the world. Of course, I say that, and then they could get eliminated in the next round when they take on somebody from the bottom left. But to go through Omega, Styles, and Okada, those three being being the three best wrestlers in the world right now, whoever comes out of that side of the bracket is going to be championed as the best wrestler in the world.
Yeah, they're gonna be heavily favored going into that finals matchup,
But one thing we need to remember is these matchups do have effects on one another. Yeah, you could come out of that top left side of the bracket, but guess what? You had to go through 2 grueling matches to get there. I mean, you're not going to beat Okada, you're not going to beat Styles, and you're not going to beat Omega without going more than 15, 20 minutes.
Exactly.
These are going to be 30, 45-minute matches, whereas guys on the other end of the bracket, Naito and Hangman Page, may be done in 10.
So let's look at the bottom left. We've got Drew McIntyre versus Jay Lethal. And I think this one's going to be a little bit more even than people are going to expect. Again, you need to give respect to Jay Lethal. That's a former Ring of Honor world champion. May not be a name that's as known as someone like Drew McIntyre. Obviously, he's got the WWE stamp of approval there. But I just like I said with a lot of other guys, do not sleep on Jay Lethal coming into this matchup. Definitely a clash of styles. Drew McIntyre obviously got the height and strength advantage. I would even maybe say he's kind of got the speed advantage too, because once the big guy gets moving, he's like a speeding bullet train. But I would say Lethal probably has the technical advantage in this. He is going to use his brains to try to outsmart his larger opponent, and he's going to pick a body part, and he's just going to go to work.
Yeah, I'd agree. This is going to be a fantastic matchup. It'll be interesting to see if Jay Lethal is able to mount enough targeted offense to slow down what is the psychotic Scotsman that is Drew McIntyre.
I'm telling you, if I'm Jay Lethal, I study film. I watched McIntyre's first match against Moose, and I see what did Moose do to weaken Drew McIntyre. Is there any advantage that I have going into this match? And wherever I think, okay, that's a body part that I can just pick at and poke at the entire match, that's what I do. That's your only way, your only prayer of winning this match is that you can exploit some hidden weakness that McIntyre has. So
we move on down the list now, and while we're not going to get the rematch of the Fight Forever feud, we are going to get a first time ever, the American Nightmare Cody taking on the Rebel Heart, if you will, Johnny Gargano.
Yes. I was disappointed, obviously, that we're not going to get to see Ciampa and Gargano go at it once more. But obviously, like with the AJ Styles Kenny Omega match, potentially we are getting a first time ever. We're getting Cody versus Johnny Gargano, 2 guys that we never thought we'd see face off ever. Cody, obviously, face of the All Elite Wrestling brand. Johnny Gargano, one of the faces, if not the face of the NXT brand. So you're talking about 2 top baby faces, and also when they want to, 2 top heels in the industry. So these guys can do it all. No lack of athleticism from either side. I would give the strength advantage probably to Cody. He's a little bit more bulked up, if you will, than Johnny, who's a little bit more on the leaner side. But both guys have stamina for days. This match is probably going to go long. I'm expecting at least 25, 30 minutes from this. I don't think this is going to be a fast match. This isn't one of those matches where one finisher puts the guy away, not even 2. I mean, I don't see if Cody hits 2 crossroads, Johnny's kicking out. Like, let's just be honest.
Yeah,
Johnny is getting up from that.
Well, this is the thing. This is the culmination of the Wednesday Night Wars.
Yeah.
This is the face of AEW and the face of NXT going head to head in this matchup. So there's more at stake than just Johnny versus Cody. This is the first real. I mean, yeah, you have a little bit of AEW versus WWE. You have AJ Styles who took on Jericho, stuff like that. But this is the first head to head of a bona fide NXT guy taking on an AEW guy.
And what I was going to say earlier, too, is that if on the flip side for Cody, you slap on the Gargano Escape, Cody's proven he's not going to tap out. Like, no, Cody won't. There better be someone in this corner because I fear for I fear for the health and safety of Cody should a submission get put on and he's not able to get out. He might have serious damage done long term if he's not willing to submit.
Mm-hmm. So we'll move across now to the other side. Top right, Tetsuya Naito from New Japan Pro Wrestling takes on AEW's Hangman Adam Page. This is going to be a hell of a match.
So I think Hangman obviously has the size and strength advantage going into this. But where this is different is that where you would maybe say that Naito's got the speed advantage. Even then, I look at Hangman, we praise this guy all the time for how fast, how athletic he is for being a light heavyweight. He's going to be able to keep up with Naito to a degree. When the pace starts to pick up, he's going to be right behind him. So I think this is Hangman all the way.
The one thing that Naito has going for him in this category is a little bit more experience. Maybe he'll be able to outsmart Hangman Adam Page, or he'll be able to just use his experience in the ring over these years to come up with some ideas on how to beat Hangman Page, who seems to be just about unstoppable right now.
Yes. Let's go on to our next match. We have Pentagon Jr. versus Tessa Blanchard. I said don't sleep on Tessa going into this tournament. With that being said, I think this is where the dream dies. I think Pentagon is just going to outclass her. I love Tessa Blanchard, but you're talking about a guy who at one point was, again, not even at one point, but when you talk about that best in the world conversation, that top 10, hell, some people could even put him in the top 5. Pentagon's name gets tossed in there. And I think he's been in a tag team for such a long time, people may have forgotten, but he is one of the top talents in the world. And while again, huge respect for Tessa Blanchard and what she's been able to do and accomplish, winning the Impact World Championship, getting past Darby Allin in that first round matchup, I think the experience factor going into this is going to be too much for her to handle. At least against Darby, you're facing off against someone who's like yourself, a little bit newer into the industry, but Pentagon's been in this game too long. I think that's where it's just going to be too much. And I think that's where Tessa finds her way home.
I don't totally disagree with you there. I think Pentagon Jr. has a big advantage coming into this matchup. The experience advantage, the speed advantage, the power advantage even to some extent. But I still would not sleep on Tessa Blanchard. Tessa has got the fight of a freaking champion. One of the best wrestlers in the world right now, female or male. So while I don't want to say Pentagon is on upset alert, because he's a lower seed, I kind of do. I mean, he's favored in just about every category. I mean, he's probably going to win our fan voting poll because Pentagon Jr. is a fantastic wrestler, but I could see Tessa Blanchard picking up a W here. I wouldn't sleep on her just yet.
All right. Well, our next match is Scorpio Sky versus the Limitless One, Keith Lee.
Yes, and in this matchup, we get another head-to-head battle of AEW and NXT, another Wednesday Night Wars battle, and this one should be interesting, to say the least.
Yeah, I mean, obviously Keith Lee has the size and strength advantage going into this one, but I would say where it's not even just that, right? Because Keith Lee frequently fights people not just that are smaller than him, but are the size and stature of Scorpio Sky. He's had numerous experience competing in matches with people like that, and I think that's actually going to be to the downfall of Scorpio Sky, because normally you could say, well, he can use his speed and athleticism to get around someone like Keith Lee, but Keith's proven he's prepared for that kind of stuff, and the big man can move too. So that's a lethal combo there. I love Scorpio Sky. Again, he was my sleeper pick coming in for the tournament, and I do believe that knowing him, he'll pull out something. He could maybe find a way to pick up the victory here, but it's hard to vote against Keith Lee in this match.
Yeah, I have to agree with you on that. It's going to be an interesting matchup to say the least, but if you want to talk about interesting matchups, Jon Moxley, FKA Dean Ambrose, taking on his former Shield brother Roman Reigns in what is now an AEW versus WWE battle. One of the top guys from each company.
I honestly feel like you fans out there who voted on the Twitter poll, you knew what you were doing, right? Let's be honest. This is why those two polls were so lopsided, I feel like, because you wanted to see it. Jon Moxley versus Roman Reigns.
You voted for Moxley versus Reigns.
Exactly. It's the matchup that everybody wants to see. It's going to be fantastic. These two, all three of the Shield guys, work fantastic when they're on the same side, and they work just as well when they're fighting against each other. They're amazing in the ring together. There's nothing really more to say except this. I can't wait to watch this match.
Now this is the biggest thing for me is you add a whole nother dynamic to that now. It has always been a fantastic matchup when those three guys get together, when those three guys in any way, shape, or form, whether it be one-on-ones or tag matches or trios or triple threat, these matches have such great chemistry. But now it's not just that Moxley walked away from the Shield. It's not like when Rollins turned his back on the Moxley walked away from the company that Reigns and Rollins are in. There is some bad blood. Of course, not as much between Reigns and Moxley as there is between Rollins and Moxley, but to have that extra layer on top of everything else, this match is going to be brutal. These men are going to disassemble one another.
Yeah, it's gonna be not only that, but another element you add to that is that it's two faces of their respective companies going at each other. And look at it from the perspective of Jon Moxley, who from day one in WWE, no matter how much success he had, he was probably always told that Roman Reigns is the guy. And now he gets to AEW, he's put on a pedestal, he's accomplished the highest of heights. He's won the AEW World Champion, and now he can look at Reigns and say, yeah, this is my company. I run this. I am the face of AEW. I am the face of professional wrestling. And you can look at Roman Reigns and say, this is my show, yo. This is my yard now. To take a shot at Reigns there. And then you got to look at Reigns. He's probably thinking, I've been running this show for years. I was the anointed one. I've been the guy in WWE since I got here. So you're just the new kid. Like, this is your first time being top of the show. So I'm going to teach you why they chose me. And I'm going to show you that in our match. So I'm definitely looking forward to see just how far these two take this match, what lengths they're willing to go to advance here, because it's definitely personal.
Yeah, the one thing that does scare me about this matchup is the possibility that whoever wins it is immediately going to lose next round because they are going to have brutalized each other so much. How do you go on from that?
Well, think about their potential match. Whoever moves forward could either have to face Keith Lee or Scorpio Sky. If you have to face Scorpio Sky, then after a grueling matchup, you're going to have to face someone who's going to be moving all over the ring. They're going to be, fast pace. And then I don't know if you're going to be able to keep up with that, depending on what injuries you sustain. But then also, if you have to,
it's not like Keith Lee's going to move slow.
Well, that's what I was going to say too. But also, if you have to face Keith Lee, then you have to face like a literal semi truck coming at you full speed. And while normally you talk about the never give up, never die attitude of someone like Moxley or Roman Reigns, I think after pushing yourself to the limit in your second round matchup, I don't know how much they're going to be able to sustain, like punishment wise, if it comes down to one of them having to fight Keith Lee.
Yeah, so you either get the Scorpio Sky who's going to turn up the pace, or you get the semi-truck that does ballet, that's Keith Lee, so you're going to be struggling either way. Fantastic matchups headed your way next week. In the meantime, Twitter polls are going to be posted, as is an updated version of the bracket for you guys to all go take a look at. And unless you have anything further for our fans today, other than the usual old like, share, subscribe, please be sure to check out our videos. And of course, we are currently only available on YouTube as the COVID-19 has us separated from one another. We will be back and available on iTunes, Spotify, Google Play Podcasts, and of course Podbean. Of course, anywhere else that you're fine professional wrestling podcasts are found as soon as the COVID-19 pandemic is done. Did I miss anything? I haven't done that in about a month and a half now.
Just make sure to follow us on all our social media. Links are down in the description down below.
Oh, and hit the thing.
Yes, hit the thing up top. Do the subscribe and the bell thing. Follow us on the Twitter machine, the Facebook, Instagram, all that fine stuff. And without a further ado, you did a great job, by the way, wrapping up the show. I'll let you close it out, bud. Go ahead, take us home.
Without further ado, live from the spare bedroom, my name is Fight Mode Nick Cavalli.
Live from Studio 6, my name is Marcus White.
And of course, as your champion, I invite you as always to join the revolution. Have a good night, guys.
Have a fantastic night.